the 21st of December. That's when winter begins. So that's when Hanukkah begins. All right. So we all know what Hanukkah, what it represents, what it stems, and the purpose of Hanukkah. What was the purpose of Hanukkah? All right. It was. We all know it was during the time of the Maccabees when we fought to reinstate and rededicate the altar and the temple that was desecrated by the Greeks, the pigs. All right. So that's what we fought for. It was fighting for liberation and for our culture, and to keep what the Most High gave us preserved. All right. So all throughout our history was a fight to preserve what the Most High gave us. So this is what the Maccabees, they stood up to fight for that freedom and for that privilege that the Most High gave us to reinstate and to keep the culture that was trodden down by the heathens. All right. So we all know predominantly the three tribes that was there in Jerusalem was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Those were the predominant tribes that was left there in Jerusalem. All right, during the time of the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, right down to the Romans. All right, which is known as the Southern Kingdom. All right, so we're gonna read that and show you that in the book of Ezra, because during the time of Ezra, that was during the time of the Persian kingdom. All right, so let's go to the book of Ezra, the first chapter and the 5th verse.
Ezra, the first chapter, 5th verse.
I'll read the first verse so we can see what it's really talking about.
First book of Ezra?
Yeah. Chapter 1, yeah, I'm 1, yeah.
And 1. And Hosea held the feast of the Passover.
No, Ezra. Not regular Ezra, not this Ezra, the other Ezra.
Oh, that's in the Old Testament?
Yeah. Ezra chapter 1, yeah. Which they're the same people, just one is in Greek, Ezra's in the Greek, and Ezra is more in the Hebrew.
Ezra's 1 and 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Most High, by the mouth of Jeremiah, might be fulfilled, the Lord Yahweh stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it also in writing, saying.
Right. So this was in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia. So we know during the time of the Persians, who was in the land? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And we're going to read on down to show you that. Read on.
Thus said Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord Yahweh of heaven had given me all the kingdoms of the earth.
Right. So when Cyrus ruled, the Most High gave him all the kingdoms of the earth to rule. So he took down the Babylonians. He took down Egypt. Took down the Assyrian Empire. He took down Lydia. All right. He took down the Medes. All the kingdoms that were ruling prior to that, he took them down, and all those kingdoms became subject unto him. Even Israel too. But he gave Israel more privileges and leadway. All right. Read on.
And he hath charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judea.
Which is in Judah. Charged to build a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. All right. That was a temple. So the Most High commissioned him to do it. All right. Read on.
Who is there among you of all his people? His power be with me, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build a house of the Lord Yahweh of Israel. He is the Yahweh, or the power which is in Jerusalem. And whosoever remaineth in any place wherein he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver, with gold, and with goods, and with beasts, beside the freewill offerings for the house of Yahweh that is in Jerusalem.
Right. So all this came from the people. Everybody came together to help to do this thing. All right. Read on.
Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin.
See what he said? Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin. Go ahead.
And the priests.
And the priests. Go ahead.
And the Levites.
And the Levites. Go ahead.
With all them whose spirit of Yahweh had raised to go up to build the house of the Lord Yahweh, which is in Jerusalem.
Right. So those were the three tribes that was there in Jerusalem at that time. And even when we got down to the time of the Greeks, it was the same thing. All right. So Israel was scattered. All right. And a lot of the people that were into Greek customs too were of the southern kingdom too. Were of Judah, Benjamin, and Levites too. They were partakers of that Greek lifestyle that took on Hellenism. All right. So now we're gonna go just to show that. Let's go to the book of Maccabees now, right? when we got to the point of the Maccabees during the 2nd century BC, the 1st century BC, when the Greeks was ruling. And the Levites, which were the Maccabees, stood up in opposition to the Greeks. And that took great courage, because what was happening during that time when the Greeks came on the scene? What was the major influence or persuasion that the Greeks was bringing on the earth? What was it called?
Hellenism.
Right. They were bringing Hellenism into the entire earth. They were indoctrinating all the nations to incorporate their lifestyle under Hellenistic way of life. So they were destroying all the culture of the different Asian dark nations that was ruling. So that's when they started to stamp the people. Like it said in Daniel, when the Romans came on the scene, they stamped the residue of the people with what? With their philosophy and culture. So the Greeks was paving the way for the Romans, because the Romans only absorbed the Greek Empire and took off where they left off from. All right? So they stamped the residue of the people with their culture and with their paganism. And that paganism ran throughout the entire earth up until this present day today, up until 2019 in America. The same BS, Christmas and all that foolishness. All right? And this is what Maccabees and his sons were fighting against. All right? The desecration of the Most High laws. All right? They were fighting against that. But they couldn't hold out for long, because eventually we had to fall, and the Greeks and the Romans had to rule and bring us down eventually. Did Judas Maccabee know this? Yes. Because at a certain point he went to the Romans to make a league with the Romans. All right? So let's go into the book of 1 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and we're going to show, find out what Hanukkah or the Feast of Lights is really about. So we're going to start here from the 4th chapter. All right? We're not going to read the whole chapter of Maccabees, you know what I mean? Whenever you get a chance, you can read it, but we're just going to get to the main point. 1 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and we're going to start here from, let's start from, let's start from the 36th verse. Yeah. 1 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and the 36th verse.
Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary.
So this is the purpose of what Hanukkah or the Feast of Lights is. It's a rededication of the altar and cleansing the temple. All right, go ahead.
Upon this all, the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profane, and the gates thereon burned up, the shrubs grown up in the courts, and as in a forest.
So you know what I mean? You ever seen, like, when they show you old pyramids in the jungle, where you see trees and grass growing up in it? That's what the temple had looked like. Trees and shrubs were growing up in the temple, looked desolate. Like a damn, so they joined, like a joint, they were like, my goodness. The whole place was desolate and desecrated. They said, nah, we can't believe this, man. All right? So read that verse again.
Call the scripture and read it.
1 Maccabees 4th chapter and 38th verse. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profane, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing up in the courts as in a forest.
Yeah. So it looked like a forest, man. Trees and everything growing up inside the temple and everything, man, the courts. All right, read on.
Or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down. They rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads.
When they saw that, they were like, wow. They cast ashes upon their heads, man. They started to weep. All right, and they took it upon themselves. They said, no, this can't be, man. This is what the Most High gave us as a heritage, and this is what happened. And they went to work then, man. Read on.
And fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew it along with the trumpets and cried toward heaven.
Right, and they cried toward heaven, man. They blew those trumpets, man. And you know, that trumpet is a major instrument among Israel today still. Even in our ignorance, a lot of jazz musicians, what instrument do they play? Trumpets. Whether it's a trombone, saxophone, or a trumpet, that's the instrument a lot of jazz musicians play. I'll give you an example. Who was Dizzy Gillespie? What's the one? Armstrong used to go to big cheeks blown out. Who else? Miles Davis, Charlie Parker. That's a spiritual thing. A trumpet. Understand that wind instrument? A lot of jazz musicians play those instruments because it's in their spirit, right? So they blew the trumpet, man, and they cried out to heaven, to the Most High. Because that trumpet is to sound the alarm to the people. So the Most High says, sound the alarm, sound the trumpet. The Most High said, if a trumpet be blown in the city, all right, read on.
Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary.
Until he cleansed the sanctuary. So that was a lot of work, man, to clean that sanctuary, to pull out all those shrubs and trees, and to root out all that stuff, the pig's blood and all that mess. That was a lot of work, man. Because what the Greeks did, they poured pig blood all over it. And Esau said the same thing when he went to fight in Afghanistan. You want to kill the Arabs or the Muslim? Put blood on the bullets. Put swine bloods on the bullet. That's the best way to kill them. Because you know the Muslims don't like pig. So that would be like an abomination to them. So they still have that same mentality. Use the pig's blood. All right? Read on.
So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law.
So who was there? The priests. So showing you it was still the Levites there in the land with Judah, Benjamin. All right? Read on.
Who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place.
So they took out all the defiled stones that were poured with blood poured upon it, swine's blood. All right? Read on.
And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it was best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach of them to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down.
Right, the heathen defiled it. And the Most High said we're not supposed to eat nothing defiled by the heathen. When we were in our land and ruling, not even the heathen was supposed to serve our food to give to the priests, man. They couldn't touch our food, man. A damn heathen. You couldn't touch your food and give it to the priests. That thing was defiled. And I'm trying to show you how the level that we've been brought down to, man, to a low level. All right, read on.
And laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took the whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts.
So now, in order for you to build the temple and the courts, what trade must you have in order to do that?
The mason.
Right, masons, carpenters. You have to have a trade. You have to know masonry in order to build a temple and to square it out and to build according to the way the Most High wanted it. And what else you have to know? You had to know math, geometry, adding and subtraction to measure according to the right specification. And you also have to know what? How to read a blueprint. Because remember, what the Most High gave Moses was a blueprint how to set up the altar and the temple. He gave it to David too and to Solomon, a blueprint. That's what Esau used to build any house or any building. He used a blueprint. And he goes by those specifications and codes of that blueprint. All right, read on.
They made also new holy vessels. And in the temple, they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings, and of incense, and the table.
So they brought back all these things, all right? The menorah, the candlestick, all right? They brought all this thing back into the temple. So they rededicated the temple, all right? Read on.
And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might have give light in the temple.
Right.
Furthermore, They set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon a new altar of burnt offerings which they had made.
Right. So on the 25th day, which is to be the 25th day of that month in December, all right? But it wasn't December 25th as they worshiping Christmas, but it was that 9th month of that 25th day that they did these things. All right, so that's why you see that Christmas comes around close to the era of Hanukkah, and people say, "But that's the same thing." No, it's not. It's totally different. Hanukkah has nothing to do with Christmas. All right, read on.
Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and cithars and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising Yahweh of heaven, which had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days.
So they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. All right, read on.
And offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifices of deliverance and praise.
All right.
They decked also the forefront of the temple with the crowns of gold and with shields. And the gates of the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away.
Right, so the reproach of the heathen was put away. All right, just for a moment. All right, read on.
Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in this season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month of Caslu, with mirth and gladness.
With mirth and gladness. So it's supposed to be kept for 8 days. And the reason why they chose 8 days, because they did it in remembrance or commemoration to the Feast of Tabernacles of the 8 days of feasting and celebrating. All right? So remember, the Feast of Lights was not one of the days that the Most High gave us when you read the law of the High Holy Days. This was something that Israel chose to dedicate to the Most High in honor of our temple being desecrated. All right, read on.
And at that time, also they built up the Mount Zion with the high walls, strong towers round about, lest the nations, the Gentiles, should come and tread it down, as they had done before. And they set a garrison to keep and fortify Bethsura, to preserve it, that the people might have defense against Udumia.
Right, defense against the Edomites, because the Edomites were still there in the land warring against us. All right, so this was the purpose of why the Feast of Lights, or the rededication of the temple, was established. Right, it was to preserve our heritage and culture that the heathen destroyed. All right, so this was the purpose why they did these things, to show an example to the Most High. We love the Most High, and they wanted to keep that zeal. And this was also done for us in our generation, to keep us inspired and to keep us in remembrance of the men that stood up for righteousness for the Most High. All right? Because remember, the scripture said, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime was written for our learning, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, that we might have hope." So this was set up to give us examples of our forefathers, of what they did. All right? Because when you match up yourself today with our forefathers and look at the things that they did, the sacrifice they made, we really can't say that we sacrificed as much as they did. All right? They sacrificed a lot to preserve what the Most High gave us for these last days. And when you read in the book of the Ecclesiastes, it tells you, let's go to that real quick. I want to show you something right here. In the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus.
Listen, there's a phone ringing. Could somebody please put that phone on vibrate?
Ecclesiasticus, the 44th chapter. Let me start from the first verse.
Ecclesiastes 44th chapter, first verse. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us.
So he's going back into the history. He said, let us praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. All right, read on.
The Lord Yahweh hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning.
And that's what the Most High did. The Most High brought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning. Going all the way back from the beginning with Adam. All right. To Moses, to David, to Solomon. All right. To these great men that the Most High established and left for us. All right. Read on.
Such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned of their power, giving counsel by their understanding and declaring prophecies.
Right. Ezra, Daniel, declaring prophecies. All right. Read on.
Leaders of the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of learning, meet for the people, wise and eloquent in their instruction. Such as found out musical tunes and recited verses and writings.
Right. So we had all those things. Musical tunes, all right? Recited verses and writing, all right? We were people that love to write, all right? Musically inclined, all right? We knew all these things, man. All right, read on.
Rich men furnished with ability, living peaceably in their habitations. All these were honored in their generations and were glory of their times. There be of them that have left a name behind them.
See, they left a name behind them. All right, read on.
That their praises might be reported. And some there be which have no memorial, who are perished as though they had never been, and are become as though they had never been born, and their children after them. But these were merciful men whose righteousness had not been forgotten. With their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant. Their seed standeth fast, and their children's for their sakes. Their seed shall remain forever, and their glory shall not be blotted out.
Right. So everything goes back to what? Your generations after you. Your children, your children's children. All right? That's why the Most High said, teach your children. Pass it on to your children. All right?
Can I say this, Ben?
Yes.
As you know, Israel will always be of high standards. That's why when we saw that temple, the way the condition it was,
Wow.
because we always had a high standard.
Yeah.
They said the shrubs was all over the courts. I mean, there was no manicuring, no landscaping. None of that was done. The bushes wasn't cut. You see how they have we had like a estate, basically. Beautiful temple. All the nations, they envy that.
Yeah.
Because we're out of beauty, not only because of our pure seed and our pedigree, but because the way we had things in order. The Most High was with us. All the gold and everything that we had. But that temple was beauty, man. They couldn't, that was just the outside that they saw. They didn't go inside, they saw just the outside. How the courts was all, everything's pulled down. Just imagine the shrubberies. We had a nice carved green. You know, we had all types of waterfalls and things of that nature. Oh, that's nothing new. We had that.
Yeah. Air coming in through the chambers to keep it cool. We had all that technology, man. Because you know, when you have a place made with marble and stone, it gets hot. So you have to have some kind of aqueduct or air filter to keep the place cool. We had that. Solomon had all that stuff. Solomon had one of the greatest splendor of a kingdom, man. You understand? When the Greeks when Alexander came to Jerusalem and he saw the priests alone, he couldn't believe it, man. When the priests came out in their purple garment in array and he saw them, he bowed down to them, man. And the African said, what the hell you bowing down to these Hebrews for? And he said, I can't believe the majesty when he saw it, man. You understand? We were a royal people, man. And the mind that the Most High gave us to build and create the temple, man, it was beyond, man. It was majestic. All right, go ahead.
We're the most talented people, the most skillful people on earth. Who built the pyramids?
We did.
Egyptians didn't do that. That was our knowledge. We're the most talented, skillful people. So imagine back then, if we that talented and skillful now, just imagine back then. They said after slavery, the most skilled men on earth were the slaves. Just imagine that. In 1860, after slavery, 1865, they said the most skilled men on the earth was the black men that was in slavery on earth. So if we was that skillful in slavery, just imagine when we was not glory, how skillful we were. Con?
Right. And I want to say this too, and if Africa was so great, what happened when we left Africa? There wasn't no more inventions or nothing in Africa after we were left as slaves in Africa. All the inventions was done over here when we got over here. Those African nations should have been way more advanced in doing everything. You understand? But all the invention was done over here while we were in slavery. About 90% of the invention that was made was done while we were in slavery. The hundreds of pattern of inventions that were made by black people was done during slavery and right after slavery during the Reconstruction era. Check it out, the 100 inventions of black people. All right, go ahead, look up. So we left off in the 12th verse. Yeah. Yeah, Ecclesiastes 44 and we're going to end the class out there. I just want to show this here. All right? The 12th verse here. Ecclesiastes 44 and 12.
Get that again. Ecclesiastes 44 and 12. Their seed standeth fast, and their children for their sakes. Their seed shall remain forever, and their glory shall not be blotted out. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their name liveth evermore.
Right, their name's going to live forevermore. Moses, David, Solomon, even though they are dead, their name is still living on. All right? The great prophets, Isaiah. Even heathens quote the scripture from Isaiah. One Trump again impeached, they quoting the scripture. What the hell you quoting the scriptures for? You understand? All of a sudden they want to quote scriptures. All right? Read on.
The people would tell of their wisdom, and the congregation would show forth their praise. Enoch pleased the Lord Yahweh and was translated, being an example of repentance to all generations.
So he's going back to Enoch from the beginning. All right? Read on.
Noah was found perfect and righteous, and in the time of wrath he was taken in exchange for the world. Therefore was he left as a remnant unto the earth when the flood came. And everlasting covenant was made with him, that all flesh should perish no more by the flood. Abraham was a great father of many people.
That's right. And he still is today. Abraham. All right? All throughout the Middle East. It's Abraham running the Middle East. That's causing problem over there. All right? Read on.
In glory was there none like unto him, who kept the law of the Most High, and was in covenant with him. He established a covenant in his flesh, and when he was proved, he was found faithful. Therefore, be assured by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed, that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from the river unto the uttermost part of the land. With Isaac did he establish likewise, for Abraham his father's sake, the blessings of all men and the covenant, and made it rest upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him in his blessing, and gave him a heritage, and divided his portion among the 12 tribes, did he part them.
Right. So that's what the Most High did. So he's showing you about famous men that stood up for righteousness in those times. All right? And Judas Maccabees and his son was one of them. And the Most High gave them great accolades for that, because they took great courage as a man and as a people to stand up and fight for your freedom and for what the Most High gave us. There's not much people stand up for the heritage of the Most High gave us. They will compromise that. And a lot of Israelites did that too. That's why they became Greeks. They compromised that and said, you know what? We don't want to keep our heritage anymore. We'll be just like the heathens. And that's what the Most High hated. But these men stood up and said, hell no. We're going to keep the heritage that the Most High gave us. And that's the example for us today still. Because the time is going to come when they're going to really prosecute us to see where we stand. If we're going to falter to their side, or we're going to stand with the Most High. And the choice is this: we gotta stand for the Most High, regardless of what. Because there's a reward in the end. All right? And I just, yes, correct, yes.
Can we just go to 2 Maccabees 10th chapter? And we show you how the Maccabees, and we just read about all the men that guided us. The Maccabees, they didn't just do this because they wanted to. They had the Spirit of the Most High in them, and they were guided by the Most High.
2 Maccabees 10, right?
Yeah, this is how you show how the Maccabees wasn't just something they created themselves or created Hanukkah. Nah, this is directed by the Most High. 2 Maccabees, the 10th chapter, and the 1st verse. It says, now Maccabees and his company, the Lord Yahweh guided them and recovered the temple and the city. So the Most High directed them. This wasn't something they just did on their own. The scripture said the Most High guided them. So this high holy day that we practicing today, or this day that we practicing or following today, the Most High guided them. We supposed to follow this day because the Most High guided the Maccabees. You see that? So that's how you can show that the Most High guided the Maccabees. It's not something that they created and did on their own. You see that? Gun? All right, the Most High guided them. All right?
But read on more. Okay. Read on good, yeah.
But the altars which the heathen have built, let me start from the beginning. 2 Maccabees 10 and 1. Now Maccabees and his company, the Lord Yahweh guided them and recovered the temple and the city. But the altars which the heathen have built in the open street and all the chapels, they pulled down.
They pulled that garbage down. Hey, get rid of that garbage, man. All right, read on.
And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar, striking stones. They took up fire out of them and offered a sacrifice after 2 years and set forth incense and light and showbread. When that was done, they fell flat down and besought the Lord Yahweh that they might come no more into such troubles. But if they sin any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy, and they might not be delivered unto that blasphemous and barbarous nation.
Which was the Greeks, a bunch of barbarous nations, man. Unscrupulous heathens, uncircumcised heathens. Right? Read on.
Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again, even the 25th day of the same month, which is Caslu. And they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the feast of the tabernacles, remembering that not long afore they had held the feast of tabernacles, when as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts. Therefore they bare branches and fair boughs and palms also, and sang psalms unto him that had given them good success in cleansing his place. They ordained also by a common statute and a decree that every year those days would be kept of the whole nation of the Jews.
So it says, and they ordained also by common statute and decree that every year those days should be kept of the whole nation of the Judites. So they made a decree that it should be kept every year. All right? Read on.
And this was the end of Antiochus, called Epiphanes.
The madman. The madman. All right?
Could I say this, man?
Yeah.
3 points. He named the Feast of Lights because a nation, and Ben mentioned, when the Judites in control, when they say Jews, it just means Judites. When they're in control and we have the temple, we become what? A nation of light. First point. Second point, as Ben mentioned, the Greek, and who Judas Maccabees trying to keep out the land, was the Edomite, right? They tried their best to keep the Edomites out the land. So who is in the land today? So the person who run the land today have to be the Edomites, right? So they said the Edomites are not white people. Because in our history, the only people who tried to get out the land was the Edomites. So now we out the land completely. Who take back over the land?
Right.
Have to be the Edomites.
Right.
So nobody know who the Edomites are.
Right. No, they said the Edomites is a black man.
Yes.
Where is that black man?
Where? Is he ruling Israel? Because when Edomites in power, the only thing they want to do is desecrate the kingdom of God. So now we not in the land. Who is desecrating the kingdom of God until this day? Edomites. So you see where wisdom lies, brothers?
Go to Ezekiel 36 real quick. It tells you who's in there.
And something I want to mention what Ben read earlier. When they build back the temple from stone to stone, when Ben mentioned tradesmanship, something what Ben should mention, they do it for free, brothers.
Done.
They do it for free. Right, Ben? They build back the temple and those things for free.
Free will offering.
And then that's why Ben go to Sirach 40 when he mention about great man. We have to mention what they do. They build back the temple of God for free.
They deal with sacrifice and love and dedication, man. Right? Let's go Ezekiel 36 from 1 down to 5. It tells you who's in the land and who's running the show. Esau is some black man. Esau is not the white man. Esau is, well, who is that black man? Where is he that's oppressing us? Where is that black man supposed to be Esau oppressing us? Where is he?
I went to picture and I didn't see one.
He's here in America? I guess he's here in America.
I went to Mount Sea and he wasn't there.
Esau is a black man. Well, where is he? I can't see him yet. I'm looking for him. All right. Ezekiel 36 and 1.
Ezekiel 36 and 1. And also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Yasha'Allah, hear the word of your Lord Yahweh.
Speaking to us as a government in exile. All right. Because mountains represents governments and people. A people of governments. All right. And we are that government in exile. All right. Read on.
Thus said the Lord Yahweh, because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession.
And who's in the ancient high places right now possessing our land? The Edomites. They're in our homeland in the ancient high places possessing and saying, aha, we're the Jewish people. Ani Yahudi! Ani Yahudi! You can't tell them they're not the Jewish people. Our fathers went down to Egypt and the Egyptians oppressed us. All right? Read on.
Therefore prophesy and say, thus said the Lord Yahweh, because they have made you desolate and swallow you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers.
And how are we taken up in the lips of talkers? When they convene in the UN, in the summit meetings, when they go out to these different places and have their big secret meetings discussing, right? We're talking up in the lips of talkers through the media also too. CNN, ABC, all the major networks. All right, they talk about us. The Hebrew, the Israelites, the black Hebrew Israelite. You just got to put in that word, black Hebrew Israelite, to make mockery of us. All right, read on.
And are an infamy of the people.
Yeah, and they try to make us an infamy of the people. All right, read on.
Therefore, ye mountains of Yasha'Allah, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Thus said the Lord Yahweh to the mountains, and to the hills, and to the rivers, and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen.
Right, so it became a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen. All right, read on.
That are round about. Therefore, said the Lord Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all the Udemia.
And that's who's in our land, the Edomites. That's who he's talking about. All right, read on.
Which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful minds to cast it out for a prey.
Yeah, the land is ours. This is our land. God gave us this land. We the Jewish people. They're in the land. That's the people he's talking about. I don't see no black man as well Edomites. Where is he?
With red beard.
With a red beard.
You shouldn't be able to hide.
All right? So that's who's in our land, appointing our land, and that's who's calling the shots, and that's who's around saying they're Jewish people. All right? They're in our land. That's who the problem we always had with. Against the Edomites, the keep mark of our land, and they're the one that was fighting for what? To get what? the inheritance that was lost from them. Right? That was our biggest rival, the Edomites, up until this very same day. Why? Because they were supposed to get the inheritance that was given to us. But because they lost it, it became a long lost rivalry to keep that inheritance. That's why the Most High said they have that perpetual hatred for us. Right? Let's go to John 10:22. When Yahushua kept the Feast of Dedication, when he went into the temple. Alright? So Yahushua recognized that day too. And why? Because it was a remembrance of the Maccabees. Yahushua knew the sacrifice that they did. Alright?
Yeah, you have to respect it.
Yeah, you gotta respect that, man. Yeah, that took great courage, man. That wasn't an easy thing to fight against the Greeks and to fight to preserve your culture, man.
Without the military.
Yeah. What they had was just like, I would say maybe tops, maybe 5,000 men. About that. You understand? And they went from area to area fighting against the groups. And what kind of tactics did they use to fight against the Greeks? What kind of military tactics did they use against the Greeks? Right, guerrilla warfare. That's the best warfare to fight against your enemy. Guerrilla warfare. Alright? That's the best. You weaken the enemy at all times. And guess what? When you fight a guerrilla warfare, when you have a wounded man or a dead man, which is worse? Why? It slows up the process. So you have to take care of him. When he's dead, you just bury him. That's it. But when he's wounded, it holds up and logs up the military. That's being a tactician. All right. When you fight your wars, you have to fight your war with skillful, tactitional preciseness. But then you kill him too. You understand? But when you have a wounded man, it slows up your army, and it takes more. All right. But that's what they fought, a guerrilla warfare. And Esau hates guerrilla warfare.
Right.
Who did he face that when he fought against? Who was using guerrilla warfare against him mainly a lot?
It was the Viet Cong.
The Viet Cong. Guerrilla warfare. Use the terrain in the land to fight against him. He hated that, man. When they said them booby trap with the bamboos, man, on it, man. He hated that, man. And then when he had the tunnel rats, they were going to get the Vietnamese out of those tunnels. They fought a good. That's why he carpet bombed Vietnam and Cambodia for days and days and days, man. Because he couldn't get them out from those holes and those tunnels, man. He hated that, man. They fought a good guerrilla warfare, man. You have to give it to them, man. John 10:22. Yeah.
St. John, 10th chapter, 22nd verse. And it was at Jerusalem. And it was at Jerusalem that the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter.
See, it was at the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem, and it was in the winter time. All right, in the winter. That's when the Feast of Dedication was kept. All right, during the time of the winter solstice, when the first of the winter comes in. Because today officially begins the first day of winter. Even though we had a lot of cold weather and snow, it wasn't winter yet. It was still fall, but today officially begins the first day of winter, the winter solstice. All right? So that's when Hanukkah begins, during that time. Read a verse again.
And it was at Jerusalem.
It was at Jerusalem. Read on.
Feast of Dedication.
The Feast of Dedication.
And it was winter.
It was winter at that time. Read on.
And Yahushua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch.
Right, so Yahushua walked into the temple, which is Solomon's porch. Does winter come in Jerusalem? Yes. They have winter. Most I said in spring, summer, winter, and fall. You have those 4 seasons. But the winter is not as drastic as over here in the west. Right? Okay, so, and that's why in the Feast of Tabernacles, you prepare for what? The winter harvest. Where you take in your crops and you store your crops in for that winter harvest. All right? So that pretty much shows you when the Feast of Dedication comes in the winter season. And it was kept for those 8 days. So this was a lesson for us, a learned experience to show us that the Most High always preserved and kept certain of our people that kept the culture. Even those that, many of us have forsaken our culture, but it was those that stood strong for our culture and our heritage. And that's the most important thing, because when you read, go to Revelation, the 12th chapter. Revelation 12, all right? Because it's going to come down to a point you're going to have to stand for the Most High. Whether your life depends upon it or not. You know? And that's the point. You're going to see what we're really made of, man. The test of a true Israelite, man. You know? Revelation 12, and start from the 12th verse.
Revelation 12 and 12.
Actually, you know what? Start from the 10th verse.
10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation.
Now our salvation is coming, but before it comes, it's going to come with what? A lot of tribulations. All right, read on.
And strength, and the kingdom of our power.
And the kingdom of our power is coming. It's coming. And Esau knows it's coming. All right, read on.
And the power of his anointed.
And the power of Hamashiach is coming. That's why they put up a sign to say Yahushua is coming. It's anti-Semitic. Bunch of devils. So let it be anti-Semitic then, if you think it is. Yahushua is coming back. And you're not going to stop it. Read on.
For the accuser of our brethren is cast down.
Right, the accuser of our brethren is going to be cast down. Read on.
Which accused them before our power day and night.
And that's what they do. They accuse us before the Most High day and night. Read on.
And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb.
That's what we're going to overcome, by the blood of the Lamb. All right, read on.
And by the word of their testimony.
And by the word of their testimony. This word is a testimony. All right, read on.
They love not their lives unto death.
Check that out. And they love their lives, and they love not their lives unto death. So even with death, you're still going to be what? Faithful unto death. You got to hold on to that. And that testimony is what's going to keep you until the end. All right? Read on.
Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having a great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
He know his time is up. That hourglass is running out of sand. All right, read on.
And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child.
And that's why it's coming down to that point. All right, read on.
And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and a half time from the face of the serpent.
3.5 years. All right, 3.5 years into the wilderness. All right, read on.
And the serpent cast out his mouth water as a flood after the woman.
So when he said the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood, what is that water? Doctrines, philosophies. All right, poured out that doctrine as a flood to destroy the woman. And who's the woman? Israel. All right, read on.
That he might cause her to be carried away of the flood.
Right, cause her to be carried away, to go away from the Most High, to distance ourselves from the Most High, to discontinue from our heritage, and hold on to pagan customs. Continue.
And the earth helped the woman, and that the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
So when he said the earth helped the woman, what does that mean? And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. It's also twofold. Let me see if y'all can pick up on it.
So we said the flood was philosophies
and the lies that he taught.
Right. Mm-hmm. And the earth.
Let me read it again. It said, and the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
It's like I guess it started providing historical proofs.
Right,
of who the
archaeological
Israelites were,
proof.
and it
Right.
opened its mouth
And destroy the lies that he's been teaching for all those centuries. So the earth represents archaeological facts, records, historical proof to destroy the lies that he fabricated for centuries. So that's how the earth helped the woman. And it's also twofold too. The Most High is going to use the earth to help us in our defense, to fight against him. The Most High is going to use the terrain of the land and the elements to help us preserve against the enemy.
Because remember, it said we're going to flee to the wilderness. So just by fleeing, as what Ben said, it's twofold. To flee, this is the Antichrist coming now. He's going to come after you. You understand me? So at that point, on the physical level, the land itself going to help us.
Right.
Just like we read in Maccabees, you think Alexander them Antiochus them never tried to go after the Maccabees?
But where did they go to? Into dens and hills and secure valleys. All right. They use the lands. They use the land, the terrain, to preserve them, help themselves. All right.
Let me say this too. Also, when you read back in 14, it said the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly. Remember the class earlier? What was the eagle? Eagle is like what? What makes the eagle different from any other bird?
Fly high.
Fly so high to what?
It only sees another eagle.
Only bird you're gonna see out the wild is just another eagle. It's like pure safety. So that's why they said 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly. In other words, it's gonna be safety.
Into the wilderness. The wilderness is going to be a place of safety for us. All right? The Most High is going to use the wilderness to help us, to preserve us. He's going to feed us everything from the wilderness. All right?
So that's why tabernacle is important too.
Right.
If we believe that the wilderness is safety, we should believe the intents for those 7 days for tabernacle also.
All right? Because learning the terrain is very important. How to build and use the resource from the land. You understand? Because when we get back in the wilderness, we're not going to have the technology that we have here. Everything has to be started from scratch. But the Most High is going to show us. The Most High already have men that already have that knowledge and understanding. See, whatever talent and skill you have here, don't give up on it. Utilize it. It's going to be used when we get in the wilderness. If you have the skill of being a carpenter, don't say, I don't need it. Yeah. You have a skill of being a mason? Yeah. Whatever skill we learn here in Babylon is going to be useful for us when we get back in the wilderness. If you know about agriculture, the land, different herbs and their stuff, it's going to be useful.
Solar?
Yeah. But the Most High going to give us the increase when we get there. But whatever skill you have, don't put us, I don't need it. Nah. Whatever you learn here in Babylon, it was for a purpose and for a reason.
To help your nation.
Right, to help your nation.
I was saying that's what he meant by they will come out with great substance.
Great substance. Everything that we learn here on the opposite side is going to be used to the positive when we get back on the other side. Okay, remember, this was just a negative ground to teach us what? To learn the positive. This whole stuff is based on negativity.
Folly.
Folly. Great folly, man. All right? Read on. Read 16 again.
And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
So the earth is starting to reveal all the facts, archaeological records, to destroy the lies that he put out.
Right.
All right? So that's what it says. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. It's going to shut his lies down. And he hates that. He is mad. All right? Read on.
And the dragon was wroth with the woman.
Yeah, he's going to be wroth, man. He's going to be mad with the woman. Read on.
And went to make war with the remnant of her seed.
And that's what he's going to do. He's going to make war with the remnant of her seed. All right? Read on.
Which keep the commandments of Yahweh and have the testimony of Yahushai, the Mashiach.
See? Which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahushai HaMashiach. That's what it's going to come down to. All right? And one more scripture, I'm going to close the class up. Go to Revelation, the 3rd chapter. All right? Also to the 2nd chapter too, Revelation 2. Revelation 2 and 10. 2, 10, and 11. And also get Revelation, the 3rd chapter. All right, so read Revelation 2 and 10 first.
Revelation 2nd chapter, 10th verse. Fear none of those which them shall suffer.
Read again. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer.
Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison.
Yeah, he's going to do that. That's his job. He's supposed to do that. And he loves that. Yeah, got you niggas in jail now, huh? Now you have a record now. All right, read on.
That ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. And be thou faithful unto death.
Be thou faithful unto death. That's a hard thing to swallow, right? But that's what it's going to come down to. All right, read on.
And I will give thee a crown of life.
And you will get a crown of life in the end. Read on.
He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit said unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death.
And what is the second death? Anybody know the second death?
The lake of fire.
The lake of fire. That's the second death. You don't want to be into that. All right? So go over here to the 3rd chapter now. And read the 10th verse. Revelation 3 and 10.
3rd chapter, 10th verse. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation.
And what is the hour of temptation? What's the hour of temptation? That's that tribulation period. That tribulation that we're going to suffer as a people. All right, read on.
Which shall come upon all the world.
Which shall come upon all the world. Nobody's going to escape that when it comes. All right, read on.
To try them that dwell upon the earth.
What it's going to do? It's going to try them that dwell upon the earth. It's going to try you to see if you're going to stand with the Most High or you're going to side with the beast. All right, read on.
Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown.
See that? It says, behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast. And what's that? What you holding fast to? The word, the faith that you have. What is the least knowledge or the greatest knowledge? Hold fast of that faith. All right, read on.
Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my power. He shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my power and the name of the city of my power, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my power, and I will write upon him my new name.
All right. Now jump over here to the 20th verse.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice, open the door. I will come in to him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne.
So you see that? That's the reward you want. You want that reward. It said, to him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne with the King of Kings. That's a high glory, man. All right, read on.
Even as I also overcame.
So he said, even as I also overcame. Just like H.O.D.C overcame, that's the same way we have to overcome too. All right, read on.
Am set down with my Father.
So he said, I am set down with my Father. Read on.
In his throne.
In his throne. So it's showing you right there. Where they said Jesus and God is one. No, they're not. They're showing you right here. How could he sit with himself? He's telling you he's sitting with his Father. All right, read on.
He that have an ear, let him hear what the Spirit said unto the churches.
All right. So I say shalom. Shalom. All right.
Let me give him one last scripture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me this is the shortest scripture in the book of Maccabees. So whenever you think about the Maccabees, you remember they were zealots of the law. They will fight to the end. First Maccabees, 3rd chapter, the 21st verse. This is the shortest verse in the book of Maccabees. This I remember them. Shah, I want you to read that. First Maccabees, 3rd chapter, 21st verse. It's the shortest scripture in the book of Maccabees.
First Maccabees, chapter 3 and verse 21.
That's how you remember them. Go ahead.
But we fight for our lives and our law.
Y'all hear that? If you don't remember anything about the Maccabees, remember what they said right there. Read that one more time.
But we fight for our lives and our law.
That's how you gotta stand this word. You gotta fight for this word too. Every day. Just like Ben talking about sitting down at the Most High's table on his throne. How you gonna get there? You gotta fight through this faith. Everybody going through different things in life. But you gotta fight.
You gotta overcome.
You gotta overcome.
Yeah. And overcome, it also means whatever hindrance or obstacles you have that's preventing you from being that faithful servant to the Most High. You understand? And it's not hard. We just have to look at the examples that our forefathers went through. You understand? When you get a chance, read the book of Hebrews, the 11th chapter. You understand? A prime example, Moses. Moses could have been a big shot in Egypt and said, to hell with you niggas, man. You niggas could suffer. I don't give a damn. But Moses said, you know what? I don't want the fame and riches in Egypt. I'm going to suffer with my people. And that's what the Mosai looked at. Mosai said, man, Moses is my man. Mosai said, it wasn't no man like Moses, man. Moses was the meekest man, man.
He could have sold out.
Yeah, he could have sold out big time. I said, man, I got mine, you get yours, man. But Moses said, hell no. I ain't going like that, man. To hell with you damn Egyptian. I'm going to suffer with my people, man. And guess what? He overcame. But he had to be brought down to another level. Because remember, Moses was what in Egypt? A prince, a commander, a general in Egypt. And when he fled out of Egypt, he became what? A what? And what else? And what was his occupation after that? A shepherd. So what was the Most High doing? The Most High was grooming him to be a leader to bring Israel out of Egypt. Because a shepherd job is to do what? To watch over the flock. And the same staff and everything he had, that's the same staff that he used to bring us out of Egypt. So he was that shepherd over us. And the Most High was preparing him. Listen, Moses, and he did it for how long? 40 years. 40 years. And how long did he wander in the wilderness? 40 years. So the Most High was grooming Moses for a job, a hell of a job. And that was a tough job. That wasn't an easy job, man. You understand? And he came up, went back into Egypt, and brought the Most High flock out of Egypt. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right? So, notice, a lot of great men in Israel were shepherds, man. Were shepherds. David was a shepherd too. Amos was a shepherd. All right? So, being a shepherd, it don't appear, oh, that's a lowly job. That's a hell of a job, man, to be a shepherd. All right?
Good shepherd.
Be a good shepherd, man.
To be a good shepherd.
And Moses was a good shepherd, man. Moses was a hell of a brother, man. That's why the Most High loved Moses, man. You know?
I think he regret that decision, man. When he comes up and see that gold cow, you think he was like...
And Aaron was there too? Aaron was there. Go ahead. He's like,
he come up and see that gold cow.
Yeah, man.
You think he said I should just stay with Pharaoh?
Israel, we are hard people, man. We're not an easy people, man. There was a comedian that said this one time. He said, He said to entertain black people is the hardest thing, because if you can't entertain them, you're gonna get booed, man. You have to know how to entertain black people, man, because we are hard. We're the hardest critics, man. You know what I mean? And we're the most stubbornest people on the face of the earth, man. You know, we just like sheep and goats, stubborn, man. But the Most High love us, man. You know what I mean? So hallelujah, all praise to the Most High. Shalom.